They say the modern mind is drowning. Too many screens, too many notifications, too many things pulling your attention in 1,000 directions. But centuries ago, in ancient China, there was a method so powerful that emperors, monks, and scholars used it to master anything with unnatural speed. A method built on 3 forces, 3 levels of human energy, 3 steps that can turn an average mind into a razor-sharp weapon. Jing-Qi-Shen. If you've ever wondered why you struggle to focus, why information never sticks, or why you start learning something only to forget it days later, this system will hit you like a punch in the chest. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The day the monk tested my mind. The road to Wudong felt endless. I remember climbing those stone steps before sunrise, each breath sending cold air scraping into my lungs. The mountain wasn't loud. It wasn't quiet either. It was something deeper than both. It was the kind of place where your thoughts echo, as if the world is listening. For years, I had been searching for something that would fix the way I learned. Books didn't help. Podcasts didn't help. Study techniques didn't help. Motivation videos never lasted more than a few days. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't stupid. I was drowning. And the world's constant noise, the endless interruptions, and the frantic pace of modern life were pulling me under. That was why I came here. I had heard stories about Wudong monks who trained warriors, healed emperors, and sharpened minds to levels that didn't seem human. I didn't care whether it sounded mystical. I was desperate enough to try anything. When I reached the top, an old monk was sweeping the courtyard. His robe was simple. His movements were slow, almost floating across the stone floor. But there was something in his presence, an unusual steadiness, like he carried silence inside him. He didn't introduce himself. He didn't ask why I was there. He simply pointed to a wooden stool in the shade and said, "Sit." I sat. He placed a small clay cup on the table between us. Nothing special, just a cup with a tiny crack on the side. "Fill it," he said. There was a pot of hot water. I poured carefully. The monk watched every movement, how I gripped the handle, how I tilted the pot, how slow or fast the water flowed. When the water reached the rim, I stopped. He nodded. Again. I hesitated. "It will spill." "That is fine," he said. So I poured again. Water ran down the sides, pooling on the table, dripping onto the stone tiles below. The monk didn't flinch. He waited until I set the pot down. Then he tapped the cup. "This," he said quietly, "is your mind." At first, I thought he meant I was overflowing with knowledge, that I had filled myself too much. Maybe he was saying I needed to empty my mind. I wasn't sure, but he leaned forward and tapped my forehead with one finger. "You come here with questions, confusion, frustration. You want to learn faster. You want to remember more. But your mind is like this cup. It overflows even before anything useful enters." I didn't know what to say. He lifted the cup and tilted it slightly. A single drop fell from the crack. "You lose energy. You lose focus. Everything spills." It felt uncomfortable how accurate he was. "I'm trying," I said. "I work hard. I study for hours." He nodded. "That is the problem. You try endlessly, but you never prepare the mind for learning. You treat learning like a battle to win instead of a state to enter." His voice was soft, but each word felt like a stone dropping into a still pond. "What should I do then?" He raised one finger. "First, Jing." The word rolled out of his mouth like it carried centuries of meaning. I knew it roughly meant essence, but I didn't understand it deeply. He sensed my confusion. "Your Jing is your base, your raw energy, everything you waste every day, your scattered thoughts, your anxious mind, your constant distractions. Drain your Jing." He tapped my chest. "When the foundation is weak, nothing stays. Information slips through the cracks." He gestured toward the overflowing clay cup. "This is how you live. You add and add and add, but you never stabilize." I felt every word, because he wasn't talking about theory. He was talking about my life. The late nights, the constant multitasking, the endless tabs open on my laptop, the never-ending feed on my phone, the racing thoughts. the feeling that my mind was always ahead of me, dragging me behind like a loose kite. And then he gave me the first test. For one full day, he said, "You'll do only one task at a time." I frowned. That's it. He didn't look impressed with my tone. When you eat, you eat. When you walk, you walk. When you clean, you clean. When you read, you read. You do not combine tasks. You do not think ahead. You do not anticipate. That sounded impossible. My entire life revolved around juggling dozens of things in my mind all at once. He could see my hesitation. "You believe multitasking is efficiency," he said. "But multitasking is leaking Jing. You cut your energy into pieces, and each piece becomes too weak to learn anything deeply." He stood up and motioned for me to follow. We walked through the courtyard, past bamboo groves swaying quietly in the wind. He moved with a calmness that made me self-conscious. Every step I took felt clumsy next to his effortless glide. As we walked, he suddenly stopped. "What are you thinking about right now?" I froze. Because he caught me. I was thinking about tomorrow, about what training would be like, about how long I'd stay, about whether this method would work. He nodded knowingly. "You see, you are walking, but your mind is not here. You are in many places at once. This is fractured Jing." He placed his hand on his heart. "Your mind must return home." For the next hour, he watched me walk around the courtyard, and every time my mind drifted, even for a second, he snapped his fingers. I didn't realize how impossible it was to keep my mind still. At one point, I grew frustrated. "I can't do it," I said. "Everything in my head is loud." He smiled gently. "That is why you learn slowly. You try to absorb the world while your mind is screaming." He led me back to the table with a clay cup. "Before you learn how to learn," he said, "you must learn how to quiet yourself." He placed both hands behind his back. "Sit, breathe, focus on one thing only, the rising and falling of your breath." Simple, basic, almost stupid. But 5 minutes in, my leg twitched. My thoughts wandered. I wanted to check my phone. I felt impatient. Everything inside me was fighting the stillness. The monk sat beside me, unmoving, breathing slowly, eyes half closed. There was no tension in him, no restlessness, no hurry. He wasn't meditating. He was just present, a kind of presence I had never seen before. "Jing," he said softly, "is not about being still. It is about being whole. When your mind becomes whole, learning becomes natural." Something inside me shifted. Not a huge transformation, not a revelation, just a quiet realization that my problem wasn't lack of intelligence. It was lack of foundation. For years, I tried to force my brain to learn faster while draining myself with constant noise. I tried to memorize information with a mind full of tension. I tried to concentrate while drowning in mental clutter. And it hit me. I had never actually learned how to learn. Not once. Not truly. That evening, the monk handed me a small journal. "This is your first tool. Write only one thing in it every night. What distracted you today?" I opened the journal. The first page was blank. "Tomorrow," he said, "you begin again. One task at a time. One breath at a time. This is the path to building Jing." As the sun dipped behind the mountains, the courtyard turned gold. Smoke from incense curled through the air. The monk walked away slowly, leaving me alone with my thoughts. For the first time in years, my mind felt quieter. Not silent, not calm, just quieter. It was enough. I realized something important. The path to learning anything faster did not start with speed. It started with stillness. And that was only the beginning. Chapter 2, Qi, the flow that changes everything. The next morning, the monk woke me before sunrise. The sky was still dark. The mountain air was cold enough that each breath felt like it scraped against my chest. I followed him through the courtyard, half awake, half confused, wondering what new test he had planned. We walked until we reached a platform on the mountain's edge. From there, I could see the world waking slowly. Layers of mist uncurling around pine trees, the first hint of orange creeping over distant peaks. The monk stood still, hands folded behind him. Yesterday, he said, you learned Jing, the foundation, the stillness of essence. Today, we move to the second pillar. He traced a slow circle in the air. Qi. I had heard the word 1,000 times before, martial arts movies, books, meditations. Everyone talked about Qi like it was magic. Some dismissed it entirely. Some romanticized it. I never understood any of it. The monk noticed my uncertainty. Qi is not magic, he said. Qi is direction. He placed his palm over his heart. Jing is your energy source. Qi is how you move it. He began pacing slowly, hands flowing in gentle arcs, like water moving around invisible stones. When Qi is scattered, your energy leaks into everything. Into thoughts, into fears, into distractions, into impulses, into noise. He paused and looked directly into my eyes. That is how most people live. Their energy is everywhere except where it matters. He stepped closer to me. Today, you will learn to guide it. He walked to a bamboo staff leaning against a stone wall and handed it to me. It wasn't heavy, but holding it felt strange, like it carried purpose, not weight. Close your eyes, he said. I closed them. Hold the staff straight. Point it forward with only one intention. What intention? I asked. He smiled lightly. You will see. I stood there, gripping the staff, trying to keep it balanced. My mind immediately started wandering. Was I holding it correctly? Was he watching me? What was I supposed to feel? How long would this take? The staff slowly tilted. I caught it, correcting myself. Then it tilted again. The monk sighed behind me. You see, Jing is your ability to stand still. Qi is your ability to guide that stillness. He stepped forward and placed one finger on my wrist. Your mind is ahead of your body. Bring them together. I tried again. Eyes closed. Staff held firm. My mind drifted again. This time to breakfast. Then to the past. Then to the future. Then to the hundreds of worries waiting for me back home. Each time, the staff wobbled. You cannot command what you cannot direct, the monk whispered. I opened my eyes, frustrated. How do I focus on something I cannot define? He walked around me slowly. You do not need to define Qi. You only need to feel flow. Learning, reading, working, studying, they are all flow. Qi is what carries Jing into action. He took the staff from my hands. Watch. His movements were unbelievably smooth. He didn't grip the staff. He didn't fight it. He didn't force it into posture or form. It seemed to glide through the air as if it knew the path on its own. When he finished, he stood the staff upright and let go. The wind pushed it slightly, but it didn't fall. It stood balanced on its own for a moment, longer than seemed possible. Then he caught it gently. When Qi flows, he said, things become effortless. But then he leaned close and whispered something that hit me harder than anything he said before. You work too hard. My jaw tightened. Isn't hard work necessary? He shook his head. You put in too much effort and produce too little result. Not because you are weak, but because your effort is misdirected. You push in every direction instead of one. He pointed out toward the mountains, where the first rays of sunlight were cutting through the mist. Look, I watched as the light flowed down the slopes, illuminating everything in a slow, controlled wave. It didn't rush. It didn't force. It moved at the pace of nature, and yet it reached everything. That, he said, is Qi. We spent the morning practicing slow movements, circles, arcs, steps that felt too simple to matter. But every time my mind drifted, my shoulders tensed, or I tried to rush, he corrected me with a single phrase. Follow the flow. Hours passed, and something strange began to happen. My breathing began to match the movement. My thoughts became quieter. My body stopped fighting itself. I wasn't perfect, not even close, but I felt something new, a sense of direction. After lunch, the monk led me to a quiet room inside the temple. There was nothing inside except a mat and a small desk with ink and paper. He placed a book on the desk. This, he said, is your lesson. I opened it. The page was completely blank. Where is the text? I asked. He tapped the empty page. Here. He sat beside me and folded his hands in his lap. To learn faster, he said, you must engage your qi. Not just your eyes. Not just your memory. Your qi must move toward the lesson. He placed the brush into my hand. Copy characters. What characters? I asked. He pointed again at the blank page. The characters in your mind. I frowned. I don't understand. He nodded. Good. You are finally ready to learn. He dipped his own brush into ink and drew one bold Chinese character in the center of a fresh page. Heart, mind, spirit. It meant many things at once. This is where qi lives, he said. Then he asked me to copy it. Simple enough, I thought. I began drawing the strokes, but they were shaky, uneven, unbalanced. My mind was tense. My breathing quickened. I grew frustrated. The monk shook his head. You copy with your hand, not with your qi. What's the difference? He lifted my wrist gently. When qi flows, the movement becomes one continuous intention. Your mind leads, your breath fuels it, your hand follows. He demonstrated again, making another flawless character in one fluid motion. I tried again. This time, I exhaled slowly before each stroke. I imagined the movement before making it. I let the brush glide instead of forcing it. And suddenly the character appeared, not perfect, but alive, balanced, connected. He looked at my work and nodded. You learned more in 5 seconds of flow, he said, than in 5 years of pressure. He closed the inkstone. Qi is not speed. Qi is not power. Qi is alignment. When alignment appears, learning accelerates naturally. He walked toward the door, but before leaving, he gave me one last lesson. Most people try to learn with scattered qi. They read while stressed. They study while distracted. They memorize while agitated. They try to absorb knowledge even though their energy is fractured. He tapped the center of his chest. When qi flows in one direction, you become unstoppable. As the evening approached, I sat alone with the blank book, copying the character over and over. Not to memorize it, but to feel it. Each stroke became a breath. Each breath became intention. Each intention reinforced direction. Slowly, something shifted. The characters became smoother. My breathing became calmer. My movements became more natural. And for the first time in my life, learning didn't feel like climbing. It felt like gliding. As the sun disappeared behind the mountains, I looked at the page filled with imperfect, uneven strokes. But instead of feeling frustrated, I felt something new, flow. It wasn't mastery. It wasn't perfection. It wasn't enlightenment. It was the beginning of qi, a quiet, steady force moving through me with purpose. And I knew this was only the second pillar. What awaited next would be even deeper, because after Jing and Qi, there was still one final stage, Shen, the spirit. But first, I had to learn how to let Qi reshape the way I thought, moved, studied, and lived. And that transformation was only getting started. Chapter 3, Shen, the awakening of the inner mind. On the third morning, the monk did not wake me with instructions or tests. He simply entered my room, placed a wooden bowl of tea on the floor, and said, "Today we speak of Shen." His voice was softer than usual, almost reverent, as if he was talking about something sacred. I sat up slowly. "What is Shen?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he opened the window and let the cold mountain wind wash into the room. Outside, the valley was covered in thick morning fog. The entire world looked like a blank canvas. "Shen," he said finally, "is the spirit that moves through the canvas of your mind." He placed his palm above his heart. Jing gives you energy. Qi gives you direction. But Shen gives you vision. He turned to me, the fog reflecting in his eyes. Without Shen, knowledge is lifeless. Without Shen, focus is mechanical. Without Shen, learning becomes repetition, not transformation. He walked toward me and handed me the bowl of tea. "Drink." The tea was warm and earthy, with a faint bitterness that settled on my tongue. The monk waited until I finished, then gestured for me to stand. "We are going somewhere different today," We left the temple and walked into the forest behind it. The air was colder here, the light dimmer. The ground was damp, covered in fallen pine needles. The further we walked, the less the world looked like anything I understood. What is Shun? I repeated. The monk stepped over a fallen log. Shun is what makes a student into a master. Shun is what turns technique into artistry. Shun is what transforms information into insight. He stopped and looked at me pointedly. Shun is the mind beyond the mind. We arrived at a circular clearing surrounded by tall bamboo. In the center was a stone platform with a single incense stick standing upright. The monk lit the incense with a small ember and let the smoke coil upward into the cold air. Sit. I sat cross-legged in front of the incense. The monk circled me slowly, like he was examining something invisible. Your Jing is stable, he said. Your Qi is forming. But your Shun. He tapped lightly on my forehead. Your Shun is still asleep. He knelt behind me and spoke in a low voice. Shun is the force that connects meaning to memory. Without Shun, you can recite a book and understand nothing. With Shun, one sentence can change your life. He placed his hands on my shoulders. For Shun to awaken, you must see beyond yourself. I frowned. See what? He pointed at the incense, smoke drifting upward. That. It was just smoke, thin, fragile, curling into shapes that dissolved almost instantly. What am I looking for? I asked. Not looking, he said. Seeing. I stared harder. The smoke twisted and drifted, sometimes forming a loop, sometimes stretching thin like a thread. The more I watched, the more complicated it seemed. No shape lasted more than a heartbeat. I don't understand. Because you're thinking, the monk said. Shun does not awaken through thinking. Shun awakens through presence. He sat beside me and pointed at the rising smoke again. This smoke, he said, has no plan, no goal, no attachment. It simply rises. It responds to wind, temperature, chance. It changes without fear. It moves without hesitation. He turned to me. What if your mind learned to move like that? I inhaled slowly. You mean flexible? Adaptable? He nodded. Your mind holds too tightly to everything. Your fears, your assumptions, your opinions, your past failures, your desire to control every outcome. He placed one finger on the center of my forehead. This tension blocks Shun. The smoke twisted again, breaking into two separate strands that rejoined in the air. Shun is clarity without force, insight without pressure, understanding without fear. I watched the smoke again, trying to relax my mind, trying to let my thoughts drift like the rising tendrils. But each time I surrendered for a moment, something inside me tensed again. A voice whispered, "What if you fail? What if you look foolish? What if you don't understand any of this?" The monk noticed the tension in my shoulders. Your Shun is trapped inside the cage of identity, he said. Let go of who you think you are. He walked to the edge of the clearing and returned with a small wooden bucket filled with dark ink. Stand. I stood. Hold out your hand. I held it out, unsure what he planned. He dipped a thin brush into the ink and drew a single character on my palm. Wu. Emptiness. Nothingness. He closed my fingers over it. Shun is born in emptiness, he said. When the mind stops clinging, Shun begins to breathe. He pointed again at the smoke. Watch it without thinking. Let your mind become like this smoke. I tried again. This time I didn't analyze the shapes. I didn't search for meaning. I simply watched. Something changed. The smoke didn't look random anymore. It looked alive. It looked intentional, without being controlled. It rose, drifted, twisted, and dissolved effortlessly. My breathing slowed. My shoulders softened. My thoughts loosened their grip. For a brief moment, I felt something open inside me, a quiet, spacious awareness that wasn't tied to any one thought. It was like my mind expanded beyond my skull and rested in the air around me. There, the monk whispered, "That is Shun." It lasted only a second before collapsing, but I had felt it, clear, quiet, powerful. The monk sat down in front of me. "Shen does not stay at first," he said. "It comes in flashes, glimpses, but each glimpse rewires the mind." He placed his fingers on his chest again. "When Shen awakens, you do not just learn faster. You perceive faster. You see patterns others miss. You read intentions before they're spoken. You understand teachings that would take others years." He leaned forward. "Shen is why ancient masters could learn impossible skills in a fraction of a time." We spent the next hours in silence. I watched the smoke until my mind softened again. I breathed until my thoughts thinned out. Slowly, little by little, the flashes returned. A moment of stillness, a moment of clarity, a moment where my inner world expanded outward into the entire clearing. The monk nodded each time I felt it. "Yes, good. That is Shen." By noon, I was exhausted. When I stood up, my legs trembled, not from physical strain, but from the mental stretching. It felt like my mind had opened doors I didn't know were there. The monk walked beside me as we left the clearing. "Now you begin to understand," he said. "Jing gives you energy to learn. Qi gives you flow to absorb. But Shen," he raised his hand as if holding something delicate, "Shen gives you awareness to transform." As we walked through the forest, he stopped suddenly and pointed at a single leaf trembling in the wind. "Tell me," he said, "what did you see today?" I hesitated. "I saw that my mind is too loud." He nodded. "And what else?" "I saw that clarity comes when I stop forcing." He nodded again. "And what else?" I looked at the trembling leaf, and for the first time, I didn't just see the leaf. I saw the movement of the air, the structure of the stem, the way the light passed through it, the way everything was connected. I exhaled. I saw that nothing moves alone. A deep smile appeared on his face. "Good. Then Shen has begun to wake." We continued walking until the temple came into view. The monk slowed his steps. "Tomorrow," he said quietly, "we begin the final test." I swallowed. "What kind of test?" He didn't answer. He only looked at me with that same calm expression and said, "Tomorrow, your Shen will be challenged. And if it holds, you will learn faster than you ever thought possible." He started walking again, leaving me standing in the shadow of the bamboo trees. For the first time, I felt something stirring inside me. Not fear, not pressure, not doubt. Something else. A quiet power, a sharpened vision, a depth of presence I had never felt before. Shen. And I knew that whatever awaited me the next day would push me beyond anything I had faced so far. But for the first time, I felt ready. Chapter 4. The day the mind stopped being blind. There are days that change you slowly, and there are days that split your life into two halves. The day my mind stopped being blind was the second kind. It didn't come with fireworks or dramatic visions. It came in the quietest moment possible, in a mountain monastery where the only sound was the wind scraping along the stone tiles. For weeks, the monk had pushed me through Jing, then Qi, then Shen. I thought I understood each one well enough. Jing had strengthened my body like a clean foundation. Qi had opened the river of my energy and given me focus I had never known. Shen had cracked something inside me, a soft but sharp awakening that made me feel lighter and more aware. But that morning, he told me something that hit much deeper. "You are still blind," he said calmly. "Blind? After all that? After the breathing, the discipline, the training, the deep internal rewiring?" Before I could speak, he added, "Jing builds your strength. Qi shows you the path. Shen opens your perception. But you are still unable to see what is here." He tapped my chest with one finger. "You see the world. You do not yet see yourself inside the world." I stared at him, confused. He sensed it. "You learn knowledge quickly now. You notice details you once ignored. You feel energy moving through you. But you have not yet realized what your mind is doing in every moment. You watch the waves, but you do not see the ocean." That was the beginning of the final test. The test of pure attention. The monk led me outside to a courtyard paved with smooth stone. In the center was a simple bowl of water. Nothing special. Clear. Still. reflecting the sky like a mirror. He sat me down before it. "Look," he said. That was all. Just look. I expected something complicated. A riddle, a breathing technique, a visualization. Instead, he gave me silence and a bowl of water. Minutes dragged into half an hour. The sun rose higher. The wind pushed dry leaves across the ground. My mind started to drift, then snapped back, then drifted again. At one point, I thought about breakfast. At another, the soreness in my back. Then I imagined how ridiculous I looked sitting in front of a bowl. Then I wondered how long he planned to keep me there. The monk didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even blink in my direction. I realized then that this wasn't about the water. It was about the mind watching the water. And that mind was scattered all over the place. After nearly an hour of silent observation, he finally said, "Tell me what you see." I answered honestly, "I see water. The surface moves when the wind blows. The light reflects off it. There's a leaf floating on the edge." He shook his head. "That is what your eyes see. I am not asking what your eyes see. I am asking what your mind sees." I stayed quiet. This time, he crouched beside me and pointed at the bowl with a single steady finger. "When you see, do you see fully? When you think, do you think fully? When you listen, do you listen fully?" He paused. "You say you want to learn faster. Then learn this. Most people read one sentence and think of 10 other things. They study but drift. They watch but sleep. Their eyes are open and their mind is closed." He tapped the bowl. "This water has no resistance. Your mind resists everything." It stung because it was true. The blindness you don't notice. We think blindness means darkness, but a blind mind is something else entirely. It is full of noise, distractions, unfocused movement, misfired attention, half-thoughts, and unfinished observations. The monk explained it this way. Shun wakes the inner mind, but waking is not seeing. A newborn opens its eyes, but understands nothing. Your awareness has opened. Now you must learn to use it. It felt like he was telling me that everything I had learned was only preparation. The real work was just beginning. He told me to close my eyes and breathe. "Now look again." I opened them. The water looked the same, but something inside me wasn't. Instead of seeing the bowl as an object, I began to notice the sensations around it. The way the sun warmed my face, the slight smell of the stone courtyard, the faint pressure of the ground beneath me, the subtle sound of leaves brushing along the edge of the wall. It wasn't mystical. It was simple, but it was deeper than before. The monk asked again, "What do you see now?" I took my time. I see the surface and the depth, the stillness and the movement. I notice the light, but also the shadows. I see the bowl, but I also sense the space around it. He nodded. "Better, but you are not finished." The moment the mind opens completely. Hours passed. The monk left me, but only physically. His instructions stayed with me. Every time my mind wandered, I brought it back. Every time I drifted into thought, I returned to the water. Every time I grew lazy, I forced myself into awareness. And then something happened that I can only describe as a shift. The water was no longer something separate from me. It wasn't an object. It wasn't a task. It wasn't the center of my attention. It was just one piece in a wider picture. The courtyard, the wind, my breath, my heartbeat, the weight of my body, the silence, the world inside me, the world outside me, everything aligned. For the first time, my mind wasn't bouncing between random thoughts. It wasn't splitting itself into fragments. It wasn't thinking ahead or behind. It was fully present. It wasn't like a trance. It wasn't like meditation. It was simply awareness turned all the way on. This is what the monk meant when he said the mind had been blind. It wasn't blindness of sight. It was blindness of perception. Most people see 1% of what's happening around them. They're too distracted by the noise inside their head. They live behind a fog of half-awareness. Their eyes work, but their attention doesn't. And in that moment, I understood why Jing-Qi-Shen existed as a system. Jing grounds you. Qi energizes you. Shen opens you. But this complete awareness was where it all connected. The monk's final lesson. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, the monk returned. He studied me for a long moment. Then he asked, "What do you see now?" I didn't answer in a rush. "I see the water, but I also see myself seeing it," I said quietly. "I notice the whole space. I feel everything without being pulled by anything." A small smile appeared on his face. "That is the day the mind stops being blind," he said. "You are beginning to see." He sat beside me and explained the lesson clearly. When the mind is blind, learning is slow. When the mind is half awake, learning improves. But when the mind is fully aware, there is no resistance. You absorb information like dry earth absorbs rain. He pointed at my chest again. "This is how you learn 10 times faster. Not by forcing your brain, but by removing the fog that covers it." He listed the signs of a mind that sees clearly. You notice details others miss. You understand ideas quickly because nothing distracts you. You remember more because your attention is sharp. You solve problems faster because your mind isn't split. You learn with ease because there's no inner noise. This, he said, was the true power of Jing-Qi-Shen. Most people read, but only their eyes move. You read with your whole mind. That is why you learn faster. He rose to leave, but said one last thing that hit me harder than all the training. A clear mind is powerful, but a blind mind is dangerous. Never forget this. The walk back. That evening, I walked through the monastery as if everything had changed. The stones under my feet felt different. The mountains in the distance felt closer. The air felt sharp and alive. For the first time in my life, I wasn't drifting through the world. I was inside it, connected to it, awake. The monk called it the day the mind stops being blind. For me, it was the first day I actually lived. There's a moment in every journey when you look back and realize you're not the same person anymore. If you followed this path from Jing-Qi-Shen, you've already taken steps most people avoid their entire lives. You've learned to calm the body, direct the energy, and awaken the inner mind. And now you know how it feels when the fog finally lifts and the mind stops being blind. The truth is simple. You don't need talent to learn faster. You don't need to be gifted or special. You only need awareness. You only need presence. You only need to remove what blocks your mind from seeing. That's the real lesson behind Jing-Qi-Shen. If this video helped you, share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me which part hit you the hardest. And if you want more stories, more ancient methods, and more techniques that change your mind from the inside out, subscribe and stay with me on this journey. Your mind is already awakening. Don't let it fall asleep again.